The ground trembled under the hooves of 600 war chariots. Pharaoh's vengeance was upon them on the shore of the Red Sea. A father named Matthew, clutching his 3 small children, saw the dust cloud rising on the horizon.
Stay close, Eli. Don't let go of my hand. We'll find a way.
Were there no graves in Egypt, that you brought us to die in the desert?
The elders' voices cracked with fury, their faces twisted by fear and desperation.
What have I done, bringing my children to this death trap?
Did we not tell you to leave us alone? Now look at us. We're trapped.
Moses stood on a rock, staff in hand, his eyes searching the heavens for an answer.
No boats, no bridge, just water, and an army closing in. We're all going to die.
For 2 million people with children, animals, and carts, there was no way out. A voice thundered, "Why do you cry to me? Tell the people to move on."
The Lord commands us to move on. Forward, all of you.
The pillar of cloud swung from the front to the rear, placing itself between Israel and the Egyptian horde. Darkness fell on the Egyptian side, but light blazed on the Israelite camp. Moses raised his staff and stretched it over the sea. A ferocious east wind howled across the water, whipping sand and robes, yet the sea remained.
The sea is still there. What is this wind doing?
Abba, I am scared. Look at the sky.
Hold tight, Eli. God is with us. We must trust.
The wind screamed all night, but the sea did not move. 2 million souls held their breath. At dawn, the sea tore apart. 2 colossal walls of water rose on either side, and the ground turned dry. The Israelites stared at the impossible path, but no one dared step forward.
Can we really walk through that?
Why do you hesitate? The Lord has made a way. Move, all of you.
We go now. Stay close, Eli.
Matthew hoisted Eli onto his shoulders and set his sandals on the dry seabed.
The ground is solid, but the water tower is higher than any wall I've ever seen.
Abba, the fish, they're swimming right there.
Behind them, a nation began to move. Carts rumbled, animals lowed, and 2 million souls streamed into the narrow corridor. No one knew how long the walls would stand, or if the Egyptians would follow. But for now, there was only forward. Matthew stumbled forward in a daze, his children clutched tight. Through the translucent walls, schools of fish darted inches from his shoulder.
A shadow glided past, a creature so massive its silhouette blotted out the torchlight.
Abba, the walls are so high. What if they fall and crush us all?
The Lord holds them, Eli. Keep your eyes on the path ahead.
The corridor thundered with noise, the creak of cart wheels, the bleat of terrified goats, desperate prayers in the dark.
I hope I am telling him the truth.
But what if the wind stops, Abba?
Then God will make a new wind. Now, hold tighter. We are almost there.
Behind them, the pillar of fire was a wall of flame, dividing darkness from light, holding back the rage of Egypt. Matthew did not look back. He only set his jaw, shifted Eli's weight, and kept walking into the unknown. On the Egyptian shore, the dust settled. Before them gaped a corridor through the sea, and the Hebrews were inside.
After them! Not one Hebrew escapes my wrath.
With a thunder of hooves, 600 chariots plunged down the dry seabed. The rumble reached the Israelite rear like an earthquake, and a cry of terror swept through the throng.
They followed us into the sea. We are trapped like animals.
Abba, the soldiers are coming.
Whip the horses. They are slowing. Crush them before the shore.
Families stumbled, carts overturned. The corridor became a stampede of terrified humanity, crushing the slow underfoot. Matthew glanced back and saw bronze helmets gleaming in the firelight, mere hundreds of paces behind, and gaining. The army of Egypt was inside the corridor now, and the distance between them and the slowest refugees was closing fast. Matthew could now see the whites of the horses' eyes. The Egyptian whipmasters lashed their steeds without mercy.
God of Abraham, Do not let them take my children.
Then, without warning, the chariot wheels began to shudder. Axles splintered, and war carts lurched to a halt.
What is this? The wheels are seizing. Get them moving.
The mighty cavalry became a tangle of thrashing horses and screaming soldiers.
They are stopped. How could it be?
The Israelites surged ahead, widening the gap with every stride.
Eli, we must run. Keep moving.
Matthew glanced back one last time at the frozen army, then turned and fled with new strength. The Egyptians were helpless in the dust, but the water walls still loomed, and the far shore was not yet in sight. With the enemy stalled, Matthew dared to look up, and nearly forgot to breathe. The water wall was alive. Fronds of seaweed brushed the glassy surface, and 1,000 luminous jellyfish pulsed in the deep.
Every drop is held by a hand I cannot see.
Abba, look! A whale! Right there! Inside the wall!
God's creatures swim beside us. Son, even the sea obeys him.
For a few heartbeats, the terror fell away. The corridor became a cathedral, and the roar of the crowd a distant hum.
If we perish here, at least I have seen the glory of the Lord.
But the sky was lightening. The first blush of dawn crept over the eastern ridges. Someone far ahead screamed with a new kind of hope. The far shore was in sight. The night of impossible wonder was ending, but the race against the collapse had just begun. At the head of the column, Moses squinted against the dawn and saw it, the far shore, dark and solid against the water. He planted his staff and lifted his eyes to heaven, lips moving in a prayer only God could hear. Behind him, the last tribes hurried forward, elders and slow children pulled by the hands.
There, the shore. Run, Eli, run.
Matthew's heart hammered. The shoreline was barely a bowshot away, but the ground beneath his feet shuddered. The water walls on either side began to quiver, droplets shivering loose from the glassy surface. Moses did not look back. He only stretched out his hand toward the sea, ready for the final act.
Not yet. Not until we are across. Please, Lord.
The first fingers of sunlight touched the beach, and with it a low rumble rolled through the corridor. The sea was waking. 2 million people had walked through the heart of the deep. Now, only the last few hundred remained between the water and the shore. Matthew was among the last. He could feel the water walls groaning, the sand beneath his feet turning to treacherous mud.
Abba, my legs are so tired!
Just a little further, Eli. Look, the sand is right there.
The ground heaved like a living thing. A crack split the corridor floor, and a spray of salt water lashed their faces.
Not now. Not when we are so close.
Moses stood on the high rock, his arms stretched over the sea. Every muscle in his body was taut as iron. And then Matthew's sandal touched wet sand, the first grain of the far shore. He stumbled, Eli clinging to his neck. Behind him, the last refugees poured out, some crawling, others dragged by relatives. The corridor was nearly empty.
We are safe, Eli. We are safe.
But the sea's roar was growing, and Moses' hand was still raised. The final command had not yet been given. Then Moses brought down his hand like a hammer. The sea roared in answer, its walls rippling with fury. With a sound like the earth breaking, the colossal walls of water collapsed inward, swallowing the corridor whole.
Back. Turn back. The water is falling. We are trapped.
Chariots were crushed like toys under tons of dark green water. Horses shrieked once and were silenced forever. From the shore, Matthew watched, his hand clamped over his mouth, his eyes unblinking and wide. The sea slapped together and settled into a flat, glassy calm, as if the miracle had never been.
They are gone. All of them. Swallowed like they were never born.
Abba, what happened to the soldiers? I can't see them.
The Lord delivered us, Eli. They will not hurt anyone ever again.
Not one Egyptian remained. The surf lapped over broken wheels and the floating feathers of chariot plumes. For a long moment, No one on the shore made a sound. The only noise was the gentle lapping of water against the sand.
The sea is peaceful, but inside me, a storm is only beginning to break.
A small, dusty hand touched Matthew's cheek, wiping away the first tear that had escaped without his knowing.
Abba, you are crying.
Yes, my son, these are tears of deliverance.
His legs buckled. Matthew sank to his knees in the wet sand, pulling all three of his children into a desperate embrace.
We walked through the grave of Pharaoh's army and came out breathing. How can a man hold such a thing in his heart?
Are we safe now, Abba? Forever?
Only God knows forever, Eli. But tonight, he parted the sea for us, and that is enough.
And there, on the sand of the far shore, Matthew wept without shame, for the terror, the wonder, and the hand that had held back the deep. Around Matthew, the shore erupted. Women danced with tambourines, men lifted children skyward, and the thunder of unshackled joy drowned out the sea. 1,000 years of slavery broke open in that single, sun-drenched moment.
Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and rider, he has thrown, and rider he has thrown into the sea.
The words of Moses rolled over Matthew like a healing tide. He closed his eyes, and the images of the night flashed behind his lids.
He is not just my God now. He is the God who carved a path through the deep.
The sun climbed fully above the water, turning the sea to a sheet of beaten gold.
Thank you. Thank you for the fish. Thank you for the wall. Thank you for my children.
Abba, can we sing too? I want to sing like Moses.
Yes, Eli. We will sing until the nations hear.
And for the first time since Egypt, Matthew lifted his voice, cracked and unsteady, and joined the song of the redeemed. As Matthew sang, his mind drifted back to the impossible images, the fish swimming inches from his face, the chariot wheels splintering, the towering walls trembling.
Every one of those moments should have killed us. They didn't, because we were never walking alone.
He looked at Moses' staff planted in the sand, an ordinary piece of wood that had split the sea.
What kind of God paints whales on the walls of a miracle and calls a runaway shepherd to command the deep?
Abba, you are smiling and crying at the same time. That's silly.
It is silly, isn't it? A grown man weeping like a child on the beach.
Maybe it's a good silly. Like when you laugh, because you are so happy, you might burst.
And Matthew did burst, but not with tears. A laugh, rough and surprised, tore out of him.
Ha, Eli, we walked through the bottom of the sea. We saw fish swimming in the walls. It is the most glorious, terrifying, ridiculous thing.
It was the sound of a man whose terror had finally been swallowed whole, leaving only awe and the wild, uncontainable laughter of the saved. The songs of triumphs slowly faded, replaced by the softer sounds of a people learning to breathe free. A wave deposited its grisly trophy at Matthew's feet, a shattered chariot wheel, spokes broken, leather reins still trailing.
A father drove that chariot. A father who will never hold his children again.
What is it, Abba?
A reminder that the mercy of God is a terrible, beautiful thing.
He did not kick the wheel, nor spit on it. He simply turned his back and walked on, the weight of deliverance heavier than any bitter triumph. Up the beach, the first tents rose like a white forest, and the smoke of cooking fires twisted into the sky.
We are free. Free to build, free to worship, free to remember.
Can we tell the story of the fish, Abba? Every year?
Every year, my son, until the very stones remember what the Lord did for Israel.
Later, as the sun climbed higher, Matthew settled onto a fallen log, Eli curled against his side, the boy's eyes heavy with the weight of the night.
Eli, there will be rivers and walls ahead, but the Lord who split the sea will split them too.
Even if we can't see the way.
Especially then. That is when the path opens.
Eli leaned into his father's chest, his small hand clutching the dusty tunic. Sleep was finally winning.
Let this moment be a stone in his soul. Let him remember the fish and the fire and the dry ground.
The sun climbed higher, and the long shadows of the camp stretched toward them like a warm blanket.
God will always make a way?
Always, my son. Always.
The camera draws back, revealing the vast encampment, the peaceful sea, and the endless sky where the pillar of fire had stood. Day bled into evening, and the fever of the camp cooled into quiet murmurs. Matthew slipped away to a low dune overlooking the sea. He sat with his back to the camp, facing the water that had been both grave and gateway.
The walls are gone now. The chariots are rust. But the fish are still swimming.
He shut his eyes against the purple and gold sky, and the night's terror played out one last time behind his lids.
The roar of the water, the screaming horses, the silence that followed, it will never leave me.
But now, there were only the gentle hiss of the surf and the distant laughter of children in the camp.
I have no more words, only breath, only this.
The sky deepened to indigo, and the first stars pricked the eastern horizon. Matthew breathed in the salt air, free air, air of the living, and did not ask for anything more. It was done. 2 million had crossed, and Matthew had walked between the walls of the impossible, and lived. The camp settled into the soft hum of a people at rest. By one small fire, Matthew traced lines in the sand with a stick, Eli watching closely.
See, Eli, these wavy lines are the water walls, and these tiny stick figures are us, walking on the dry ground.
And the fish? Where are the fish, Abba?
Ah, the fish. They swam inside the walls, right here.
A shadow fell over the sand, and Matthew felt a familiar weight as his wife sank down beside him, resting her head on his shoulder.
The walls were so high. Abba, will I ever see them again?
Maybe not with your eyes. But every time you see a great water, you will remember, and you will tell your own children someday.
The fire crackled, and for a long while no one spoke. They just breathed the free air together.
I will never forget the fish, Abba.
The Red Sea was now just water behind them, but it would never be just water again. Weeks passed, and the Red Sea became a story told around fires. But in Matthew, the crossing became something deeper, a pillar under his soul.
The terror is gone. What remains is only the wonder, the fish, the fire, the impossible dry ground.
He walked with a lighter step now, the weight of Egypt finally lifted from his shoulders.
Sometimes at night, I still see the walls, the great green water held back by nothing but the hand of God. The same hand that passed over our doors in Egypt carved a highway through the deep.
A memory surfaced of the whips and the bricks, the groan of slavery, and it dissolved in the light of what had been given.
I am not who I was on the other shore. The man who walked into the sea died there, and a new one walked out.
In the still hours before dawn, he would wake and smile, not because the nightmare was over, but because the miracle was real.
Every sunrise now is a gift. Every breath is praise.
The crossing was complete, not just in the history of a nation, but in the quiet heart of a father who had learned that God makes a way. One star-bright evening, Eli stumbled to his father, eyes glowing with more than firelight.
Abba, will you tell me the story of the fish in the wall again?
Which part do you remember best?
The part where the water rose higher than mountains and didn't fall.
Matthew drew a line in the sand, and a wind blew all night. He began, his voice calm, the terror now only wonder.
The Lord breathed, and the sea split open like a scroll.
Eli's eyes never left his father's face as the story unfolded, each word a stone laid for the next generation. The fire popped, and sparks rose like tiny prayers into the vast, star-scattered sky. The camera pulled back, the family shrinking in the frame, until they were just another flickering light among many, their story woven into the eternal. And the flame of that night, the crossing, the fish, The deliverance would pass from father to son until the end of days, and so 2 million people, with children, animals, and carts, crossed the Red Sea in a single night, not by boats, not by bridges, but by the hand of God parting the deep. A father named Matthew walked through the heart of the sea, his children clinging to his tunic. He saw fish swimming in the walls of water, held back by the breath of the Almighty. The terror of Pharaoh's chariots, the roar of the collapsing waves, all silenced by a greater power. And when dawn broke, the sea returned to its place. But the memory became a pillar of faith for every household that sat by the fire that night. The story was the same. God makes a way. And a boy named Eli would grow old telling his own children about the fish in the wall, not because a prophet stretched his hand, but because a father walked in holy terror and lived to speak of it. And 2 million souls became a nation, born from the impossible highway through the deep. The sea split, walls of water rising 30 meters into the night. A father walked with his children through the impossible corridor. The chariots of Pharaoh shuddered to a halt, their wheels locked by an unseen hand. On the far shore, a father fell to his knees and wept without shame. The sun rose over a sea become mirror, holding no trace of the night's terror. He had seen fish swimming in the walls, the breath of God holding back the deep. The army of Egypt, the might of a kingdom, swallowed in a single breath of the sea. And a boy named Eli would grow old, telling his own children about the fish in the wall, not because a prophet stretched his hand, but because a father walked in holy terror and lived. This was the night God made a highway through the deep. The story of the crossing is a foundation stone of faith, a testament that when the sea is before you and the enemy behind, there is a God who carves a path, who holds back the waters and dries the ground. Matthew was a simple father who walked where no man had walked. His testimony remains. God makes a way. Let the memory of that night be a pillar of hope in your own wilderness. When the path seems impossible, remember the fish in the wall. Remember the dry ground between the waves. Remember that 2 million souls crossed in a single night, not by their own strength, but by the hand of God. This has been the crossing of the Red Sea, a story that changed the world, based on the biblical account of Exodus 14. Fade to black.